Welcome back, everyone. We're getting ready for our second game in our first best of two between Evil Geniuses Academy and TSM Academy. That first game there, Crumbs, that was looking pretty dang good out of TSM.
Clean, right? Few mistakes, but good cross-map plays out of them allowed them to answer back anything that Evil Geniuses Academy was trying to do. And I think the fact that they gave themselves a lot of options to find these fights really helped them out in the end. And they got value out of the Alistar. That last pick was really incredible. So this was the play that I think Evil Geniuses would have liked not to have made, but that TSM used to snowball the game to a huge advantage. All those plates, all that gold going over to Cody-san. This set a tone in the AD carry difference that would really never be surmounted after this game went down. And so TSM felt so comfortable with taking these fights as long as Cody-san remained. And how many fights, Magical, did we see where it was Cody alive at the very end by a sliver of health, just cleaning up the rest of the team?
I can only think off the top of my head one time where they were able to actually pick off Cody-san and actually be able to kill him. It was just so difficult to actually stick to him. Watch how long he's able to drag out this fight here.
He did a great job with that stopwatch. And look at Takeover, right? He saved the kick. He flashed in to kick the Akali away, but Cody still had the stopwatch. So while the Lee Sin attempted to be the hero, Cody had it down all by himself. He could peel it all on his own with a good itemization. And then we're going to go back to the very end of the game, the very last fight with a control ward there that Contracts is thinking, maybe this is the opportunity. Could we fight? Could we engage? Find a single member? But instead, the rest of the team is not interested. They are too far behind, and so he gets picked off by himself. Gets haymakered for 1,200 health. This is looking like one of those Reddit montage videos, and then the fight is just all too easy.
The One Punch Man set version. It was definitely looking pretty mathematically correct right there, where he was just able to do so much damage in that fight. And honestly, just looking at the whole fight in that final moment, you kind of see that Evil Geniuses, it almost seemed like the communication had broken down at that point. That they had Contracts dive in, they had an advantage because Takeover's top lane, they even saw Cody-san pushing mid lane, but nobody followed him up off that. And I think that was more just an indication of them kind of forfeiting that match altogether.
It's funny because Xin was never known as the champion that could engage by himself, that would engage at such a long range that the rest of the team couldn't follow up. But with the increased range of his audacious charge, he's now dashing half a screen away from you. And you got to keep that in mind when the rest of the team doesn't have abilities that can jump the enemy so quickly. And I think it was a trap that they fell into twice this game already, trying to engage onto the Alistar. It's just not the champion to do it unless you have true damage, a quick way to deal with him. Every other way that you try to engage against him is just going to be a signal for the rest of the team to collapse. And so that you, by the time you get Alistar low enough, the rest of the team is already there. You're out of cooldowns and out of position because his combo comes up again.
And I want to kind of go into draft before we get into the second game draft on this one, because Evil Geniuses, they started off, honestly, I think almost every single one of their picks, except for Kaisa, was counterpicked. They showed their hand so early on by picking the Gwen, then Xin Zhao and Akali afterwards to say, hey, these are what we're going to have, and they're not as flexible as the champions you've drafted. The Lee Sins, the Sets, even Tristana herself can easily be moved around and had such more fluid ability to move the elements into the correct slots to be able to completely pick apart Evil Geniuses.
Their draft with the Akali, the Xin, and the Gwen, and even the Kaisa really wants multiple champions to engage and to have those forms of starting the fight be guaranteed. But the way that TSM drafted ensured that there was never any way to guarantee the fight. You have Alistar to deal with the Rel, and so without her, nobody else can really start a fight on their own. Those are not the champions that want to be in the front line. Since Zhao is a single member that doesn't buy that much time without an enchanter to keep him alive. And if he's not enough, then you now have to deal with the Lee Sin kick. You've got the Set displacement. Then you have the Tristana buster shot. So there's too many tools to disengage from a single engage opportunity that EG had.
And EG, with the double ignite as opposed to getting the flashes, had to be able to get those early kills to snowball. And because, like you said, there's so much ability on the side of TSM to be able to disengage them, keep them at bay. If they don't have this monumental lead by the time we get to these full-on team fights, they're not going to be able to do enough damage quickly enough before they're booted out of the fight.
It's something that they have to keep in mind that I think other teams have been learning from the current meta, which is that you just need to have more tools to engage. You need to have more options. The game is constantly evolving, but there are fundamentals that have stayed the same. Marking the engaged targets, knowing who is going to go start the fight, and making sure that those players never get the fight started is something that has been around the game forever. And now that you have more and more options like that, relying on a single player is often too difficult. And so having more members that can fill that job not only makes it easier for you to execute on that, but it makes it harder for the enemy team to be mindful of where these engages are happening, and especially if you're trying to go for flanks. You've seen champions like Rakan that are so good at sneaking in the backlines and then engaging exactly because of that. Because if you can sneak behind the enemy, if you can go undercover and sneak around, find the right avenue to engage, you're so much more likely to get the fight that you want.
So, I know this is going to sound really random. I almost feel like Evil Geniuses, the Gwen baited them in. That they got baited in by having to draft this Gwen, seeing as she's been considered one of the premier champions nearly permanently banned every game. But in Academy, she's now 1-on-4. She's only won 1 game out of 5. It isn't looking so hot. And then after that, they have this Xin Zhao paired up with it. And you and I feel like always talk about this, but I feel like Fiddlesticks would have worked great for this composition.
If you see the Diana afterwards, yes, I think you can draft the Fiddlesticks once you see the Diana. I totally see that, except you have a lot of magic damage already with the Akali and the Gwen, and so that's where you go back to your point that you overloaded in a lot of picks early on that needed a little bit more setup. It's something that happens plenty of times, but this is why best of twos happen, because it doesn't matter how hard the loss could have been in game 1. There's always the opportunity to bounce back, and now we are trading sides, so Evil Geniuses Academy will have the option of counterpicking. Counterpick support already showing a lot of value from TSM, and I think that with the increased interest in the solo lane picks right now that are just so dominant across the globe, there's not that much value in the counterpicks AD carry. There's really not an interest in counterpicking the jungle, so counterpicking support seems to fall into the next logical conclusion for how to take advantage of red side.
As right now, Tahm Kench, Lulu, Lee Sin, the same 3 bans TSM had when they were on red side. Usually, when you swap sides, you change up the bans at least a little bit, but TSM say, you know what, it worked for us. It doesn't matter, blue side, red side, these bans are great. Take away from Evil Genius Academy. Not going to be able to play that weak side bot lane with Zen and Tahm Kench. Can't have the flexibility of this Lulu that can buff up contracts a little bit more if they decide to go mid lane, or even have the Seeks play that bot lane. There's so much that TSM have with these 3 bans that stops a lot of what Evil Geniuses want to be able to accomplish.
And even though these bans do stop a lot of what TSM is trying to accomplish, and they even ban out the set that was so successful last game, you still have Lee Sin. I think that Lee Sin's ability to be both an engage and disengage option makes him more flexible than the Akali, a bit easier to execute as well. So TSM will take that priority. It can also be flexed in 3 lanes as opposed to 2, or 3 roles rather. So I think that the TSM's Lee Sin pick just gives you a little bit more value than first picking that Akali, especially if your Akali is not feeling like it's ready to just 1v5 every single game. There's such a higher demand for mechanical outplays on that champion that I think the Lee Sin makes a lot of sense. Oftentimes,
Agreed.
Like we just saw from Jojo Pion, your role can just be, or rather from Takeover, safeguard your AD carry, kick whoever's close to him.
And
Job's done.
I kind of wonder if they're going to do that again here. We see Akali, Viego, both drafted, even though, still flexible. It's a lot more pinpointed on where you expect these champions to go. Well, it could be Viego mid, could be Viego jungle, could be Viego top, Akali top, mid. Pretty much locked standard there. I want to see if maybe Takeover just drafts Sylas here. They got banned away last time around, and Sylas has been one of these picks that we have seen absolutely crushing all across so many regions. What was it? I think just last night we saw that night where Top Esports was able to get a nasty 1v4 where he was able to pick up 4 kills all by himself with no teammates around.
They still lost that game. They still
They
lost
still
that
lost,
game.
but the
Yeah.
Silas was ridiculous.
Yeah, it was good. It's gonna be a toll on the game, I worry, if you pick Silas into a Viego, because now you steal the Viego ultimate, and now Silas is getting abilities from Viego, so now he can actually be a full champion. He can be a full boy by himself, just stealing Viego's ultimate. But EG, though, is saying that they liked some of the champions that worked from last game, and they are gonna just lock away the Alistar. We're just blind this early on. They're calling out, saying that the Tristana won't be paired with an Enchanter. It's going to be just another hard engaged support. And if that's the case, then the Alistar will get a lot of value. Picks like the Diana really struggle with that one. Right? Once you use your second charge, a headbutt is enough to just make sure you never participate in the fight ever again. So there's going to be a better engage tool from EG Academy, and they can still draft more if they choose to put, say, Viego in solo lane and then grab a jungler like a Gragas or even a Fiddlesticks now that Diana has been selected.
There are a lot of tools that are still left open right now for Evil Geniuses Academy, and I think I agree with you. This Alistar pick is a nice pick for them. It stops what Haunter or Hyper might want to be able to do if it is going to be Haunter on to that Lee Sin. And if they actually do draft this Xayah, then you have self-heal. You have an ability to keep yourself alive even longer for this fight while your assassins completely obliterate the backline.
That's the value of Xayah right now, right? Her ultimate is something that no other AD carry really has, but then you have picks like the Kai'Sa, who are also able to be offensively useful with their own ultimate. So Xayah, I think, can be a bit better in lane when it comes to setting up these ganks with her feather pullback. So we'll see if EG wants to play around that, though. It will allow her to be more defensive, but I just worry if it happens that the rest of EG wants to go in and then Xayah gets left behind, because TSM Academy have a ton of engage. And so if it seems like the Alistar is spreading himself too far, thinking about engaging and leaving Xayah to her own devices, the rest of the team also has to make that call. And that's the situations that just end up splitting a team in the heat of the moment, and suddenly the team fight goes entirely wrong despite the itemization and the positioning that looked good, but then the executions was split apart.
Surprise, surprise, we get this Rumble picked up for Contracts, is most played so far, I believe, in the summer split so far. He's definitely been looking pretty good on that champion. But the thing that is kind of surprising is it's not paired up with that Nautilus. They banned that away. They don't have the consistent lockdown. Even though an Alistar Headbutt Pulverize can get a lot of targets onto your Equalizer, generally, we've seen a lot more of these Rumbles paired up with a lot more champions that can really back them up, to get a lot more CC layered on top of that Equalizer to actually get all that incredible DPS.
And the curious thing about the Rumble here is that we see Diana as an answer to Rumble half the time. Diana loves to go into this matchup. She knows she's going to be able to get free farm. So we wonder, why is Contract selecting this pick? You know, the other options would be things like the Fiddlesticks, something that can assist it with an engage and have damage. But there already is a plenty of disengage that isn't fun to deal with if you're Fiddlesticks. The Lee Sin kick, Tristana Buster Shot can immediately cancel you out and do a team fight. Whereas the Rumble Equalizer can pair well with a lot of the crowd control tools that the bottom lane of EG Academy brings, but you also do know that TSM is trying to dogpile on top. So you don't have to worry so much about the setup of the Equalizer on your own team's combination of CC, but rather if TSM is all grouping up, funneling to engage on you, then the Equalizer can get just as much value.
As here we are loaded up onto the Rift for game number 2. Evil Geniuses, can they keep their train going? The 1-to-1 trade-off that they've been having since week 1. Or is it going to be their first 0-2 that they will succumb to at the hands of TSM Academy? We've been saying have been looking really hot lately. This team looking like they have really been able to coalesce into a full functioning squad.
Yeah, and full functioning squads that come out of Academy is what we're interested in. We want to see these teams learn the lessons to become one of these fully fledged teams, especially as they go into proving grounds, as they go and compete with other teams that get to qualify through other instances. And the same way we've got proving grounds playing against amateur Magical, I want to see some sort of proving grounds that has LCS,
Ooh, I
Let's
like
see
it too.
where the bottom of the LCS do against the top of Academy or the top of Proving Grounds. I think it's going to be closer than teams think.
You know, Crumbs, you and we've been a part of the scene for a while in different regards. I've been watching LCS and all these sort of things since back in the days of the Salt League, back the NACL, way back in Season 2. And I remember relegations. I remember those. Those were always hype. Those were always fun to see the bottom-tier teams of the LCS take on these newer squads that wanted to be able to usurp their position and their spot into the LCS. And I would be for that, even if it's not, necessarily relegation, but seeing some of these teams take on the top academy squads and seeing just how powerful this development has been so far.
I don't think capturing the same flame of relegation will be exactly possible because you do have to kick teams out of the league, but you can get close though, because the idea is just that these matches are higher stakes. Right? That's really what they're all about. Something happens that is more impactful to the team, to the players, or the league than a simple loss in a record, right? Somebody leaves or there is embarrassment. Oh, you just lost to a team in the lower league. There is potential for trading, for happening between players or even other teams that look upon someone that just lost to an academy player or even proving grounds player, and you're thinking, oh, that could be cheaper. That could make our team a bit stronger if they fulfill a need that we currently have. And so the fact that those matches in between leagues are higher stakes is, I think, what made them exciting every single time, whether it's you actually leaving the league or you just having been a little sad that you lost to a team that you thought you were better than.
I mean, you and I feel like could go on for ages about this topic. It's always a fun thing to watch and see the development of a league and the players that are involved. Because here we have a player like Hyper, players like Takeover as well, a player coming in from a different region, coming in from Latin America, to try to see how he's going to be able to do against some of these other newer players, or even veteran players, such as you look at Hanser versus Tony Top, or in this case, Japan, since we've seen a lane swap mid lane, it's more the two new players, Tony Top versus Takeover, that you love to see. You want to see how these players are going to be able to grow here in this developmental league, also how they would be against some of the top talent or the teams that are in the LCS currently.
That's the dream. It's the pie in the sky that I don't think it's too far, though. I think the teams are slowly realizing that. I think as the scene grows, the need for those kinds of tournaments will continue. But
Agreed.
Now to go back into this bottom lane, as a big wave is building here for Mystiques and Team Luke that Rumble is coming down on. It does get spotted, but the channel of the base comes through. So not a lot of experience will be missed out for Cody Sun. He had a double longsword purchase and just doesn't want to risk the fact that the wave will be building up and maybe he gets dove or engaged upon when he doesn't have support. Now the task on the bottom lane would be up to Yurasan to actually hold that wave so that Cody Sun gets to cash in all of it, but it shouldn't be too difficult. Desire is not faster than pushing than Tristana.
No, and you could already see that your son was able to get a nice little freeze using his own body to keep the minions at bay before they crashed into the turret, so Cody's son could show up into that bot lane, be able to pick up all of the CS and stay even against Team Luke. As we transition, looking topside, this lane swap has worked amazingly for Evil Geniuses so far. You can see top lane, Japan getting quite the amount of harass over Hanser, this Renekton, who's normally known so fluently as being this hard carry in the top lane, someone who likes to play aggressively, but he's struggling right now to kind of hold his own against the Akali, who, again, has taken Ignite.
It's something that I think most Akalis in Academy have been doing, even Jenkins when he went into the LCS, but a gank into the top lane is happening right now.
Contracts is here. Takeover wants to be able to show up, but it's going to be the TP reciprocated. Dives away to be able to survive. So TP for TP traded between the two mid laners, but not actually going to have anything really result out of it. Not yet, at least, unless Jojopian gets himself caught out a bit too much, because there's an experience lead that Takeover has at the moment.
Okay, and nothing happens as the teleports get answered between each other, but this is going to be fair for Evil Geniuses as the Diego gets to go back to the lane, and there's already camp in the top side for Rumble. Jojo's level 6!
He's going for a nice kick away, though, from Takeover. The Ignite's not going to be enough to be able to take him down, and with the minions not there, Jojopian does not want to try to go for the dive just yet. He's waiting for the minions to be able to show up to actually be able to accomplish the deed.
That looked really dangerous there. And even in the re-engage there, if that Q connected against Jojopion, he would have been dead. Akali gets to shove in this lane again. And watch Rumble.
Yeah,
He's
that's what I'm
still
looking
path
at.
back to the top side since Takeover stayed here. He has some vision, but if he uses his
There
safeguard
it
right now,
is.
he is dead. Oh, he's
no,
gonna die.
no. He's got the minions. He's got the minions right there. The flash coming in, flashing away, but first blood is picked up, and it is going to be traded. Even with the scrap shield, it's not enough.
It's worth it. There's a wave that's gonna crash. Wait, Jojo?
Free recall, I guess. Oh, no.
So he thinks he's
Look,
getting
yeah.
collapsed on and
Yeah.
he can't get out.
Yeah,
He
he
thinks he's
saw
getting collapsed
Hanser,
on
yeah.
and can't get out. So I wonder if the call is right, though. I think there was a time, but this ensures that he pushes the wave. If he didn't do that, the wave wouldn't be pushed as quickly as he would have liked to. So I think this actually works out in the end, and it does deny the Lee Sin since his teleport was down. So pretty good heads-up play there by Jojo. And I do think it actually does pay off because with flashes available between Hanser and Hyper, I don't think they would have given up on the chase. So let's see how contracts start to sell. Let's take a look at the heat management because from what I saw, it's actually pretty spot on. Overheating with the Flame Spitter auto attacks going on. Flashing in, bam, hits the slow, even gets the flash out of Takeover. All in all, nice dive that ends up working in the favor of EG. And yet, the Renekton is on the way. You would have had to rely on Renekton just sniffing the wrong bush, and you just don't want to take those chances.
I'm pretty sure Hanser would have probably even looked for a dive, too. He had level 7.
Exactly.
I think you're right. I think it's a great call. The moment he saw Hanser pop main map, he's like, no way. There's no damage that was dealt to me by Takeover. This is going to be an execute. Right now, get the kick coming in on Tony top. Takeover trying to be able to get the 1-for-1, but now that Hyper and Contracts are both here, look right over the wall. Equalizer right on top of him, pulled back in to be able to steal the soul. Looks for the flash away, follows up with the Sonic Wave that he stole away. Your son. You're too late to be able to help out the team. It's going to be the dive coming back in with the damage. They might be able to pick up all these kills. Mid lane double kill, in fact, for Tony top.
That was filthy. It's a double, but they take 3 members. TSM commits to that play because they don't have vision of Contracts. They don't know where he's at. They think they have an opportunity to continue to chase. But lo and behold, there's a level 6 Rumble right there, and he has no problems laying down an equalizer against a Lee Sin that you just burned his flash of, and you just saw him use his safeguard. So let's take a look at this once again, because there is no sight of them, and he waits around the corner very nicely. Despite missing his initial Electro Harpoon, all they need to do is get a single kill for Viego to heal up and get the reset, and then this is really the icing on the cake. A lonely Leona had the initial roam, thought she could go top, go mid, help out the 2v2, ends up just dying and adding fuel to the fire that is EG's mid 2v2 right now.
And this is Contracts on his Rumble as well. Even if it's got a 50% win rate so far in this split, it's also had a game where he got 17 kills in week 1. He knows how to pilot this champion incredibly well, and seeing how it's already playing out with how much pressure. He's got 100% kill participation so far, and we're only 10 minutes in.
This is why that last pick Rumble came through. You got to have comfort. You got to know that you're going to be able to pilot this champion well when the most common matchups has been the one that you selected into it. Because it's not always that Diana necessarily counters Rumble by any means. It's simply that Diana enjoys the space that Rumble's early game provides against her. But this time around, Contracts in the early game has been devastating, and now he's looking for another fight against Hanser, who doesn't have flash. Let's see if he uses his slice and dice or even thinks about warding.
He's waiting for him to try to see if he could step up, but Hanser is playing this one patiently, but unfortunately not patiently enough. That damage from the overheat, woo-hoo-hoo!
Wow, yeah, that was just filthy. And he's got a Rift Herald on top of it, so he knows he can go into this lane as the wave is already pushing back, and he'll be able to get even more gold out of it. Hasn't popped it just yet, probably looking for a few autos before going for it. And that's going to put more gold into the pocket of Jojopion, who's already delivered mechanically multiple games in a row. Yep, it should be the tower had TSM not sent multiple members to defend, but the plating is what they care about, and seeing the jungle and top laner here frees up the rest of the team to do whatever they want, as we're now going to see the bot lane and mid just being able to push as aggressively as they want. They know that Diana is all the way into the top side of the map, and there's not even any teleports from the TSM solo lanes.
And right now, TSM, this top lane part of the map for EG has worked so well. Tony top, look at this rookie flexing on this veteran player.
You know, I'm starting to suspect that the Renekton pick just might not be as good as we think it is. Last
anymore.
patch, last split, yeah, it looked pretty good. But now with the addition and rise of picks like Viego, Gwen, and Akali, it seems like the mechanical prowess of these other picks, the toolkit is just so much more complex and difficult to deal with than Renekton's, who's fairly obvious. It's the dash into the stun and the dash away or follow up through. So they're dealing with him really well. And an O2 Renekton is not a pick that has an easy time coming back or even being useful in a team fight. As a stun bot, there are many more champions that fulfill that role from a deficit better than Renekton.
I was gonna say, it's like the old days of Lee Sin, back when he was like all the rage in the jungle. Him and Elise, if they didn't get ahead early on, they just became a kick or cocoon bot. Here, Renekton, pretty much just a stun bot at the moment. Just like, alright, what's the one target that we're the most afraid of? Lock them down. I hope my team's going to be able to provide enough damage to back it up. But you can see from the gold right now that there's no one on TSM Academy who really are going to be able to do that. Even bot lane. Cody-san is completely dead even with Team Luke.
It's an entire 180 from game one. So things are looking bright in the EG camp for another week of a 1-1. But in the meantime, Contracts is by himself. Could get kicked into the squad. Renekton can't follow up. They're afraid of how much damage he's gotten, especially because of how Akali has been freezing this wave.
Look at his heat management right now. The equalizer going to come out. He is going to overheat, but he's staying on top of the equalizer. Haunter pops the ultimate, trying to see if he can dive back in, but it's going to be Tony Top who tries to take a lot of the pressure away. Finally gets stunned up, looking for the damage. The dash over the wall, trying to get the flash away. Haunter cannot keep the chase going. He dies to the rampage Tony Top has been able to accomplish with everyone else, trying to see if they can show up. Uses the Heartbreaker to be able to get a little bit of distance from your son. The pick goes through for Evil Geniuses.
Oh, Hyper's still going!
Woo! Hyper was able to find one, but is he going to be able to find two? He gets the flash away from Tony Top, who does not have flash, does not have ult, does not want to fight this one, especially now that Hyper was able to show up and help get a little bit back for the team.
TSM keeps chasing because they know they have to turn something up for that play. The bottom lane roamed up. They've been giving up this bot lane plating to the Xayah this whole time. So they needed to commit to that chase. Contracts takes a greedy route and gets punished for it. But at least TSM gets something back on the map. It just doesn't bide well that the cost for that shutdown is so large. Team Luke now has just an entire turret's worth of play under his belt, and there's a 4-0 Viego. Let's take a look at how this replay ends up playing out, because it was a pretty poor equalizer placement. Could have been a bit better from Contracts. Does a good job in escaping here at the very end, and while TSM do try to burst him down, they end up splitting up at the end. Takeover and Hanser are not on the same page, and so the safeguard that could have been used to continue to chase, knowing that there's reinforcements on the way, ends up being used to disengage. And this is what Hunter, or rather what Hyper does to actually save this play, because otherwise it just would have been EG getting so much value out of that 2v2.
It was just, I think, a bit of an awkward pathing there from Evil Geniuses, thinking that they had full control, but it is a good pick from Hyper. Being able to punish that, get a little bit of gold, that might be something that they can now try to translate into Cody-san. We always see that TSM want to play around this bottom half of the map. They haven't been able to do so, but the safety Team Luke has with this Xayah-Alistar combo, so unless they can make this fight work out really well, they're not really going to be able to get the gold necessary for Cody-san to become this mid-game threat.
Yeah, and Cody-san was just so instrumental that last game. The advantage he had that time around was night and day to the gold he has currently. He does not have a lead over Team Luke. Team Luke got a full plate to turret with the Rift Herald 8 in the bot side, so Cody-san will need to put in a lot of work, and he won't have the front line that's going to be as relevant as it was in the previous game. So the job for the Tristana here is entirely self-reliant. See if this trap, though, from TSM works against Tony, who did burn the ultimate earlier. They need Diana, Hyper to come through. Here they go.
But it's 12-10 right now for Hanser. The damage of Tony Top is pretty damn high, even with Hyper being there. Tony Top looked like there was a potential. Had he had the ultimate, he probably could have 2v1.
Yeah, that actually looked like an opportunity for a 2v1, especially if Diana ends up joining, and then he gets the kill of a Renekton on top of you. You know the slice and dice follow-up is coming through, and the double kill will be ensured. So let's see now if it works into the top side. 2 attempts on the lives of the EG solo lanes, and none will work out.
No, but even with the fact they have 4 members now top lane. Nice kick, though, from Takeover. The dash back over the wall, but they got the charge. They take the kill away from Takeover. That time worked much better.
Yeah, I've made the preemptive thought. I thought that they were going to back off on that one, but again, the bot lane, relentless in their pursuit of a good play, keeping the rotations going. There's a Rift Herald in the mid lane. Somebody can hold it with the Diana. The Dragon is up, and they don't want to take a team fight right now. Rumble and Viego are just too fed, so they have to make cross-map plays, and they execute on it. It's something that EG struggled with last game. I think Hanser should be safe here. Does have the double dash, and still the Gore Drinker. If he just buys a few more seconds, his ultimate will come back up, though, so he won't be in threat of being dove.
Yep, I thought for a second maybe Tony Top was about to do something a little bit spicy there, but he makes the right call. He backs out of that one. Knows that he has a pretty sizable bounty that TSM would love to be able to pick up for themselves. As top lane, Kodi-san getting more gold. This is what we're going to continue to highlight, is how TSM can get this gold into Kodi-san. Normally, what it is Hanser trying to TP into the spot lane play, make something happen so that way Kodi-san can get resets, can always bounce around and get plenty of gold, so he's going to be the damage source. But when you have a 0-3 Renekton, it's all on Takeover now, even Hyper being there too.
Yeah, it's all on Takeover, Hyper, and even your son there to actually CC the right target so that Cody can deal damage. He doesn't have the Phantom Dancer just yet, but once he reaches that break point, you can count on the DPS to be fairly relevant against EG's lineup that has yet to stack armor. There's only safeguard or arm guards and plated steel caps just yet, though, so it's still the opportunity for Tristana to DPS members without the need of Lord Dominik's. In the meantime, though, a blue buff invade will cost a tier 2. EG just does not care about the buff. They want to take the tower, but Hyper is collapsing, and EG knows it. He went through a ward.
There's no TP out of Tony Top either, so there could be this collapse. They have the TP for Hanser. They might be able to find a play. They're being so cautious here, not really wanting to dive in. Finally, making the call happen, looking to see if they can dive in onto the upper contract. He flashes away, but you can see the Buster Shot used on Tony Top to be able to get a little bit of distance so they can get the kill into contract and look for Mr. Quest. Trying to be able to get him, but he's going to be able to get the Feather Storm coming in from Team Luke to try to get the damage onto Hyper. But in the backline, he flashes in. Mystique still alive. Flashcom not enough. Double kill comes in from Takeover with Kodi-san getting the reset for himself. But now that Jojo Pion trying to be able to dash back in. Tony Top is soul in the souls. Can he dive back in? He does not want to go on 3 members, but TSM 2-for-3 trade.
Yeah, they're going to be happy with that one. That was a defense of a turret, and while they lost the tower, being able to kill multiple members of EG now allows Tristana to push in the mid lane. There's nobody that's going to stop that, so they do get a mid-tier 1 for that. That benefits them in the long run. Being able to open up the map on EG's side will make it so much easier for them to place deep wards now that the solo lanes have TPs available and actually find the right fight. So EG here, though, get a bit overconfident in their attempt to re-engage onto Takeover. They allow Hyper to get into the backline. Good timing on the exhaust, but by this time, TSM is already entirely formed. They're ready to team fight front to back. The Tristana is untouched, and most of the damage has gone over to the carry. So, yeah, you do take down the Lee Sin, the Diana, but there are 4 threats in this composition, and one of them is ranged. And so while Kodi-san remains alive, TSM stay with chances at winning these fights.
And again, we got to continue to sing the praises of Kodi-san, making sure to delay Tony Top, the one who has primarily the most gold for Evil Geniuses, away from the fight for so damn long, meant that there was no collapse to be able to help out Hanser. They couldn't even help Mystiques at first. It took them so long to finally be able to get the members over there, even though this is an Alistar who is normally incredibly difficult to kill.
Now, that is a very difficult target to kill, but I do think that you can just ignore them with how much damage both these lineups have. If you just focus on other targets, but your Mystiques is getting assistance from Jojo. The TP has come through. 2 members are involved.
Oh, Tony Top. They have Kodi-san. They're going to be able to dive over the wall, but the damage onto Mystiques. They're going to try to see if they can follow it up. All the while, Tony Top is completely taken out of the fight by Yurson. But here comes the damage in from Contract. Trying to get over the wall towards Mystiques so he can get himself a reset. Has to heal up. And finally, he's able to pick it up. But can he get the damage? Cannot get away. It's 2 kills picked up as Tony Top continues to fight in the backline. 1v2. He is not deterred. Kodi-san isn't there to help him out anymore because they already got the double kill for Tony Top, taking everyone but Hyper, the only one surviving the jungler. Even though he's alive, it is EG on the Baron.
Perfect timing for EG to win a fight right now. Baron as the reward, and they're going to be able to drive this Baron into a victory here because the objective will lead them into a dragon afterwards, and that will put them at soul. It feels like this is a win that TSM won't be able to surmount after they recall and get the most out of it. This Viego is just untouched. They cannot deal with how strong Tony Tup is right now, and we're going to see how it played out because Cody is lying in wait. And while initially that looks fine, with the teleports and the collapse of EG results in him being caught between multiple members of Evil Geniuses that you just don't want to be around. They're all terrible angles, and when EG recognize, hey, we can just collapse onto this one. In the bot side, Tony is just busy 1v2ing and then re-engages with the safeguard into the control ward against Leona. There's just no way out from Viego once he gets the possessions. Right now, the meta is just going to guarantee that you get more mobility. Almost every champion that you get is going to allow you to move yourself closer to the enemy, and then you're going to be able to get reset after reset, and the chains never end.
Tony Top took the attention of 3 members of TSM there. I mean, that is showing right now this power he is able to provide for the team. 6-0-3. Steric's now completed, even making sure to build up towards a Randuin just so that way there's not going to be any damage coming in from Cody-san on them. There's no threat onto this top lane or mid lane or whatever you want to call him of EG, where he's able to just play as aggressively as he wants.
Well, now it's going to be Jurson goes in.
It seems familiar, though. Even though they get the pick onto contracts, they have lost Jurson. And wait till Cody-san shows up. Cody-san, Tony Top, is able to pick him off and look for the re-engage. There is no damage that can ever stop this man from taking everyone. Cody-san realizes that, and he completely bails.
With Team Luke staying alive here, they're going to do a lot of damage to this base. I don't think they can go for an end, though. Leona will be able to spawn back up. It would be risky to attempt that with Cody-san alive, but just a single inhibitor is enough for EG to be satisfied with this Baron push as they still hold on to the bounty of Tony Top and they crack the base.
Cracking the base, making it easier for them to go back home, reset, buy some items, and continue. There it is. Randuin's Omen completed out of Tony Top. So I'm just wondering now, how the hell do they stop this Viego?
You know, Magical, that's a question that many teams have asked. And not many around the world have yet to come up with an answer. Beautiful angle to actually catch onto the Rumble, except he gets the equalizer off. This is the value that this champion offers, and that you can actually just get your burst down before immediately get blown up and still offer so much for your team. You get exactly the value that you ask for when you select this pick, especially when you have a Morellonomicon to diminish the damage, the healing.
Yeah, I mean, right now, Evil Geniuses, this is their game 2 buff when they're down 0-1. They seem like they always like to be able to make a 1-1, and they look like they want to keep that train going. As Hanser, you're so far behind, mate. You're burning. You had to pop a Dominus just to survive, flashed away from an equalizer. Oh, man, you're dead meat, my friend. You're about to be made into some boots. They're looking to see if they can get the dive. He's still alive, but the damage finally comes through from Alistar to be able to pick up the kill. Jojo being on top of so many members, not taken down just yet himself. Finally, they take down the cow, but is that enough? Not when they have all this push. Not when Tony Top wants to threaten a dive. Man, this guy's so scary. Nicely done out of Team Luke.
Ooh.
The flash to make sure he gets the fancy footwork kill. Even though Takeover is nearby, Sonic Wave going to be able to connect the heal coming in. Picks up the kill, but wow, the Blade Caller gets the delayed ace.
And TP is coming on into the top side. They're trying to ride this wave into the end. I think they've got it. There's no one alive. This Viego is just way too fed. The damage onto the turret should be enough. EG have tied up the score at a 1-1.
Your son, you should have sold everything and gone Zonius, my friend. It's the only hope you have left right now, unless you can somehow delay long enough. Hanser's here, but here's the equalizer. I think you're right, Crumbs. I think this is GG for EG. One more attempted fight, padding the KDAs a little bit more. But Tony Top contracts, they're like, hell no, we want this victory.
Another 1-1 start for EG, but they look good when they get the win. They looked good when they get the win. They're showing plenty of individual prowess. Tony Top, that game with the Viego showing that he can flex into the mid lane. He can switch roles with his own mid laner and deliver when the matchup is most suitable. And that's the flexibility that I think is really seeping into a lot of teams inside the game, being able to just swap around not just the champion pool, but also the lane itself. This was one of the very last fights, the one where EG were able to walk away with the Baron. Poor Cody there, caught between terrible places to be in, as the rest of the team is happy to sacrifice a cow to kill the Rocketeer.
And the thing is, too, that it probably would have worked a little bit better had Tony Top not just been able to 1v3. He is in that back line getting so much attention while Cody-san, like you said, he was sandwiched. He had nowhere to go and no team to back him up either. And even here, you can see that Cody-san's trying to make sure he can stay far back, but if he's far back, who's doing the damage for the team?
Yeah, and he doesn't even have that much damage right now because there's so many difficult targets to go after as the Tristana. You've got an Alistar with damage reduction. You've got a Viego with invulnerability. You've got an Akali that goes invisible, and then a Xayah who goes untargetable. So who do you actually hit?
I actually can't answer that. I have no idea what you can do there.
It's a lot of difficult targets.
It's definitely a difficult game for TSM, but this looked more like what we expect out of EG. They played for the top side. Even if Tony Top was mid lane, they still played around him. They still played around getting this Viego ahead, and they were able to do so early. Contract on this Rumble looked a lot more comfortable than he did on that Xin Zhao.
And that's what last pick is for, being able to select either counter pick or the comfort that you're most interested in after seeing the matchup. Often it's undervalued what it does for the jungler's confidence. A role that is arguably one of the most confident based roles is that, hey, I just saw the entire team comp. I know exactly what they can do against my champion. I know what I can do against them. Give me the last pick. You already selected your own earlier. I know we normally would be taking this pick earlier, but the fact that I can get to see exactly what I'm playing into leaves no surprises to happen in the draft, and I feel most confident with the pick then. And I think that's the value that EG were able to get out of Red Side, giving more confidence to a player that we know can deliver on this pick, but knowing exactly who he's taking it into just took him over the edge.
It did, and I highlighted it in Champion Select. The Rumble, it's kind of awkward here just because it doesn't have that reliable CC. Well, who needs that if you were able to get most of your equalizers to be really good? And Contract showed he only, I think, had one of those. Only one equalizer that kind of looked iffy.
He had, most were good. Yeah, most
Right.
were really good. It was that one against Lee Sin in the top side. He clipped him a little bit, didn't quite lay it on top of him, but that's just a very difficult situation to actually lay one down. And they still won that fight, so I think it worked out.
And I hear that we have Team Luke ready for our Verizon post-game interview. Team Luke, congratulations on that game to victory. And I gotta just ask, because you guys, for what is it, the past 6 series have gone 1-1.
6 series.
What's up with that?
So it doesn't feel good, or it feels okay, right? Because you're winning and losing one game every time. But I mean, I guess it felt kind of good after game 1 today because we lost. And then I'm like, well, I mean, we've drawn the last 5 series in a row. There's no way we don't draw again. So it's kind of like guaranteed win for the last game, which is nice. But it felt like we should have been getting some 2-0s over the past like 6 series. I think even today, the first game, if we didn't do some unfortunate things like the Herald play bot where we lost, like they got double kill and then like they got the whole first tower. The game was kind of hard after that, and then the dragon fight was kind of unlucky. So I feel like we should definitely be getting some 2-0s, but it's whatever. It's not bad.
Do you feel like you're learning more from the losses than the wins? Which ones are you loading up in the VOD review longer?
I mean, definitely the losses, right? Because you can look over the key points of, okay, like why we lost the game and like what to fix in the future. But it definitely feels good to look back on the wins too and see what we did right. So there's learning points from both of them, and just trying to like get the most out of all of our like stage games is something that I've been trying to do. I feel like the stage games have been like where, okay, like you scrim all week and then you get to the stage and like it feels like everything that you've learned, like it kind of like starts to click, and it just feels really good when like you're kind of just in the zone playing and you kind of like have a grasp of how the game's going to turn out, and it just kind of flows. And then obviously, if you win, it feels really good. If you lose, you learn from your mistakes. We still got a long season ahead of us, so just taking it slow, trying to take in as much as I can from all the wins and the losses, and just keep moving forward.
Nice.
Yeah, and I do want to ask you one really quick thing, because you did play a little bit last split in the academy, but this split has been a lot more. You've been able to rejoin a team, and you, like you said, it's been the ups and downs of things. But how would you compare your experiences from spring to summer, especially with how you guys have been pretty much doing relatively good? You started off with that 2-0, but the 1-1s across the board, for the most part, have been really good because you've taken down some really strong teams.
Yeah, so comparing the two splits is definitely a huge difference. I'd say that the biggest difference by far is that the first time when I was on CLG for the month, I was playing remotely. So I had a really bad ping. I couldn't like interact with my teammates like that much. Like I mean, we have like scrims together, but I feel like here and now, like me and like most of my teammates will stay after scrims like at the office and just like play solo queue and just hang out, and we've all gotten like pretty close over the past month of playing. So just more of like a bond of being here and like being there for your teammates, and we're all like really close friends. Like I haven't really met that many people since I've been out here. Like I'm new to LA. So just having them and like having those close friends is like a huge positive. Where like as on CLG, like I'm still friends with them. Like we were friends back in the day, but it wasn't as close because I was remote,
Right.
and yeah. So it's definitely a lot better being here. It's a better experience, more immersive, learn more.
Yeah. And just to go back into the game, where do you feel the AD carry meta is headed right now? Because we see a lot of players experimenting with things like Ziggs in the bottom lane. We saw Senna Ziggs. We see a lot more variety happening. I feel like you're one of the AD carries that has so far stuck to the traditional AD carries for right now. Is there something that you feel like is happening that is inspiring people to go that direction that maybe you will also follow?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely know why it's happening. It's because basically top mid jungle, all their champs are so broken. Like
Yeah.
if you get top mid jungle ahead, like it doesn't matter if you're a 10-0 to carry. Like you just die. Like you have a Kali that has one item. You're a 10-0 to carry. She lands E, you're just dead. So it's more rewarding to get top side ahead as opposed to bot side. So these picks like Ziggs will just help like stop the game, make sure they're not like losing too much bot side, while also like being able to play weak side for their like strong side top and to get them ahead. And then I feel like once a lot of these overtuned champs like in the top side get nerfed a little bit, like the Akali, the Gwen, what else? Viego, all these champs are just crazy. Like maybe AD carry meta will rise back up. I know we've been seeing some like Lulu Cog, like the enchanters are pretty strong. But that's more for buffing up like the Xin Zhao and like all these other like topside champs that are really strong. It's not really for the AD carry. But maybe if these champs get tuned down, the damage gets a little bit lowered and like AD carries can like survive, then we'll see like a resurgence of like playing for bot side again. And
I think
like
the story of your point was Keith last week playing a Fed Ezreal gets Nautilus ultied into Lee Sin kick into Set ulti and instantly dies.
This sounds like AD carry.
Yeah, that's true. And you know, we're gonna wrap up this interview, but before I let you go, Team Luke, is there anything you want to say before you head off? Anything you'd like to say to your fans?
Shout out my parents. Shout out all my fans. Shout out the Res Boys again. Shout out Steven. Shout out all my boys back home. I miss you guys. Yeah, that's about it.
Well, thank
All
you,
right.
Team Luke. It's awesome having you in. Thank you so much for that interview. I hope you have a wonderful night.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, you too.
All right, Crumbs. With that, we have another 1-1 on the board for Evil Geniuses Academy. They continue their trend 6 series in a row. I wonder when they're going to break it. I also did like that you brought up the point of the 80 carry pool and what we didn't see in this series, which is Ziggs becoming something of a relative niche but kind of meta pick on other teams where we've seen him even flex in mid lane.
Yeah, it was refreshing to hear it also from Team Luke. He was a really good interview. Actually, just giving us a lot of information, being comfortable on camera. So that's always nice to see as well.
I love it. I love when the player's really talkative and we can get a lot of their behind the scenes, what they feel, what they think. especially because, we're on 11-12 still. It's not yet 11-13 where we see a lot of changes coming in, the 2 new items. You have the mobility creep that got nerfed a lot too. So maybe then we'll see the ADCs come back in, but I still wonder because there's still certain champions that aren't getting nerfed that I feel like it's enough to keep the meta kind of how it is for ADCs.
I like it. And if the cost of the very fun meta that most people enjoy is that AD carries are playing not AD carries or maybe having less of a good time, it's a sacrifice I'm willing to make.
Same, because I'm a support player who takes all the kills, so I definitely agree with that. But we're going to toss it to a break. When we come back, we'll have our second best of 2, so don't go anywhere.
Verizon believes everyone deserves the best. That's why we start with 5G from America's most reliable network.
Verizon 5G is next level.
Then give families plans to mix and match, so you only pay for what you need starting at $35.
You get so much more than this, a great network.
And offer the best in entertainment on select unlimited plans, like Disney+, Hulu, and ESPN+, as well as Discovery+, with a Galaxy S21 Plus 5G when you buy one. There's no reason to settle for less than the best. Only from Verizon.